Hey, YouTube and DFS playing, MLB loving fanatics. I am back. Let's try this again today on such a huge full slate, and let's try and break this puppy down. Hopefully, by now, you've already read Chin Music or a couple of your other favorites around the industry, and you've gotten kind of a first look and an entry-level glance. Hopefully, you're not completely under a rock, and you know Clayton Kershaw's on the slate tonight. And you also know there's a couple of viable pivots. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to build a lineup with Kershaw in it, and then how to get around it if you decide you want to fade Kershaw because you don't feel comfortable with the lineup. This is a type of day where you're just going to build lineup after lineup after lineup after lineup. You're not going to play them all, but you're going to just get a feel, get a flow, get to try and figure it out. The computer won't be fast enough for me to dig in and build 10 to 15 lineups in front of you without taking an hour's worth of your time. But what we're going to do is we're going to jump in and we're going to see if there's enough value on this slate. So we're going to build from the bottom up. We're going to plug Kershaw in first, and then we're going to start picking teams that we want to pick on. Today, if you follow Chin Music at all, I wrote a little note in there. Hopefully most of you picked up on. 22 out of the 30 pitchers today have a Sierra over 4.5. That's stupid. 22 pitchers that we can viably pick on, so you can make a case for all of them. The problem there is now we don't know what offenses are going to go off. Look at some of these run totals. Over 5, close to 5. These are crapshoots out of Vegas. They give you just kind of a rough idea. Over 4.5, over 4.5. I mean, any of these offenses can put up 10 tonight. We're just going to try and pick from the best of the best. Cubs are hot. I'll show you in another video kind of an interesting way to target certain bats. But in the meantime, we're just looking for, I mean, these guys are all facing soft pitching. It's just, and we've got a game in Coors. So what we're going to do is we're going to, as these lineups get released, we're going to start looking for value to slide into some of these lineups near the top, hopefully 1 through 5 spots. That's what, because really and truly, when Kershaw takes so much of your salary, and GPP is a little different. I'm more of a cash builder. I'm a little bit safer. I want at-bats. At-bats in MLB are kind of like usage rate for NBA. It tells me that the guy's getting opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. A guy in the 1 hole is going to be the first guy to get his 4th at-bat, the first guy to get his 5th at-bat. The 9-hole guy might be cheap, but he's maybe only going to get you 3 or 4 at-bats on a given night, where the leadoff guy's going to get that 5th shot, and that might be what you need to get that single or draw that walk or get on base and score that run or whatever. We're going to look for guys with upside. Always, always, always. But we're going to favor guys hitting in the tops of the orders because they're going to get more opportunities to score points for us, if that makes sense. That is a fundamental DFS point. So let's kind of dive in. Now, here's an option. This is a game scheduled to go boom. And you got a couple of potential gas cans on the mound. I mean, they may not be the worst pitchers in the world, but they're far from Clayton Kershaw. So we're going to look through these offenses just off of a glance, and we're going to see if we can find some cheap plays. I mean, Adam Jones, pretty cheap. Scope, pretty cheap. Chris Davis, ridiculously cheap for the power he possesses, but he's not having a great year. So we want to make sure that he's at least not blind in the batter's box and he's at least seeing the baseball come in there. Can he go off for 2 bombs? Sure. But when is he likely to? When he's running hot. Not when he's running ice cold. So let's take a look at him. But you got Mancini, who's been in there okay. Over on the other side, you've got some other guys that haven't been mentioned in a while. Shu. Sin Shu Chu, whatever. Say that 5 times fast. Mazzara has potential. Beltre, of course, getting up there in price-wise. What you need to do first, that's just one offense that we'll probably target. Let's dig into MLB. Let's do the main slate. You usually will find me on the smaller slates, because that's just kind of how I roll on big full slate days. I'm just not a big fan, but let's go ahead and target some silly little league and just start building a lineup just for funsies. What I'll typically do is I'll click these things down. I'm not paying $10,000 for a 3-man contest. I wasn't born with money. I've got to grind it up the hard way like everybody else. 20-man league, whatever. 10-man, 20-man, 100-man, whatever you want to do. Those are fine. What we're going to do here is we load up this recording software. I apologize. It bogs down an already old and kind of slow computer. So we'll get there. We're in the process of upgrading our shiz. So, and that, of course, is stupid. We're going to plug Kershaw in there first. We're just going to bite the bullet. We're going to start with the hardest thing that we should have to roster. Now we're going to scroll down, and if we like picking on the Texas-Baltimore game, just go ahead and isolate it. Let's look through some of these players, and we're going to try and pick who are the at each position. Actually, let's go back. Let's try something different. I know we're going to like Texas and Baltimore. If you read JM to Win over on Roto Grinders, he's a pretty good guy, and I'll try and throw out these names once in a while. Help me spread the love and help me pass the thanks along to these guys that have done their part in teaching me. Julian does something pretty fun. He says, kind of like the Warren Buffett investing strategy, when others get fearful, you should be getting greedy. And when others get greedy, you should be fearful. Who's the hottest team in the league right now? I don't know. It could be Chicago. They've won 4 in a row. They've scored some runs. Could be Colorado at home. We're at Coors Field. Those are opportunities in single entry tournaments, maybe not cash games, but single entry tournament type things. Those are opportunities to fade because everybody's going to get greedy and try and jump in there and take those bats. So you can bank on the opposite happening, being that baseball is a highly volatile sport and anything can happen on a more regular basis than the other more predictable sports. So when people are getting greedy, you should be a little fearful. However, when people get fearful, stacking Texas and Baltimore last night, you should get greedy. People are these teams shit on them last night, and people are going to be a little afraid to go back to the well, which means we should jump on it because it's still a green light situation. I don't care how you look at it. One of the things that I do when I dig into these offenses is I want to find who's running hot. So if I want to pick on Texas first, then we'll pop this number up. I'm using these, honestly, instead of DFS Army today because sometimes the DFS Army comes out a little bit late, and I can do these videos a little earlier in the morning. And I apologize. That's, partly me, partly the other guys and whatnot. We're busy doing other stuff throughout the day, and we're trying to hustle these up. And a lot of times these things change as we're waiting for lineups to come out. We want the information to be as accurate as possible so we're not wasting anybody's time, too. It's kind of a double-edged sword. But when I'm trying to do these teaching moments first, understand that I'm going to be running off of Roto Grinders since it's free for everybody primarily. But I do go back later in the afternoon, and of course I look at all of the Army lineup stuff because we have projections in there. We have our own grades in there. We have things that I want to cross-check and I want to verify that help me make a little bit better decisions and may make me change my mind a little bit. So bear that in mind. If you're not a VIP, follow the link in the description that I'll throw in there. I might put a link to Chin Music up there for you if you're finding me for the first time. And hopefully you can get to know me a little bit. We dig in, we interact back and forth a little bit, we teach each other. Another thing, for those of you that are subscribing to the channel and giving it the old thumbs up, thank you very much. I very much appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at Choppodong. Jump into the DFS Army. Tag me in there. Let's talk. Tell me what you want to know. I know that I'm getting a little bit of positive feedback from you guys telling me that these videos are helping and helping you build better lineups, and that's great. But if you find something you continually have a question about, ask me. I'm a real person. I'm not a robot. Ask me. I get in my own ruts and my own things. I look at season-long numbers here as a baseline. I love the number OPS. I've got my own little number we use inside DFS Army called OBISO, which adds these two columns together. But they're kind of the same thing. So for quick moving, OPS works. You're looking for guys that, like I said the other day, that get on base and have power. I want guys that get on base because they're not making outs. Outs hurt me. Getting on base at least helps a little bit. I get 3 points for getting on base. I get the opportunity to steal a base. I get the opportunity to be driven in and pick up a few points that way. They at least help. So OBP is an important number to know. I'm looking for 350 to 400 typically as a baseline. So if I'm looking at season-long numbers, I want guys that are typically getting on base. But I want them doing so with a little bit of power. Now, I can sacrifice a little OBP if a guy has a lot of power. I'm not afraid to run a guy out there who's only getting on base, 25, 30% of the time if he's crushing the baseball when he hits it, because that's going to rack up a lot of points at one time too. So if the guy has a high OBP, he doesn't need quite as high an ISO. But if he has a lower OBP, he needs hella high ISO to make up for it, if that makes sense. So what I'm looking for is guys getting on base, but with power. And the way we find that, OPS is a good number. An elite number, OPS is over 1,000. I consider over 800 playable. Again, that doesn't mean that I'm going to drop off a guy at 769 if he's getting on base almost 35% of the time. Pretty good still. But it's a benchmark and a guideline for me to get some places to start drawing some lines in the sand and start narrowing down my player pool, because if I have 1,000 guys to pick from, I'm going to be overwhelmed. I want to get it down to maybe the top 3 or 4 guys at each position, and I kind of want to roll from there with mixing and matching my lineups. So without killing too much time, if you sort by OPS, you'll see who for the season so far. Well, there's your old Drew Robinson, dirt cheap player. Yeah, you see Adrian Beltre over 119 at-bat samples, a 900 ops guy. Gomez, Gallo, Andrus, Chirinos is playable as a platoon guy. Mazzara is playable. When they start getting down into the 800 range, I want to see a little higher OBP, though, because something's dragging them down. I'd rather it not be their OBP. But you guys that are up a little higher, 900 over 1,000, these are guys I'm looking to play. Now, there aren't very many guys around the league that can maintain a 1,200 ops, so Drew Robinson's going to cool off at some point. But you know what? While he's hot, get on him. I will narrow this down further as a baseline and see, okay, these are the guys that are typically producing within the offense. Another way you can do it is you can sort by fantasy points. These are the guys that are producing right here. But I will cut it down to a 4-week sample size. Sometimes when we get a little further away from the All-Star break, I'll go back to 1-week numbers for right-handers, because 20 at-bats tells me who's hot and who's not. But for right now, 4-week numbers, sort by OPS again. And you can see these guys are running above their baselines, right? There's Chirinos, Gallo, Beltre, all over 1,000. These are all guys. Chirinos hits for a ton of power. Look at his ISO. He's not getting on base a lot, but you'd be nuts not to use this guy. 6 extra base hits and 28 at-bats. Pretty good guy, right? 350, still opting over 1,000 because he's hit with some pop. 350, 860, Andrus is playable. We might be able to find better shortstops out there, but he's playable. These are guys that I'm going to be looking at using tonight. And I'm going to be picking from the cheaper ones if I can, okay? And then I'm going to close this out. I would write these down on a piece of paper personally. And I'm not going to walk you through every team, but I'll show you one of the areas that I'm going to target is this game between Texas and Baltimore. So anybody can do this. This isn't rocket science. Again, you sort by OPS. You look for the season-long numbers. Go back 2 seasons if you want to. Trey Mancini, Scope, Joseph, Trumbo, Adam Jones, Seth Smith. Now, these guys aren't all going to be starters. Even Chris Davis, his ISO is okay. But he's not getting on base at all, and his ISO isn't high enough to overcome this and bring him up over 800, 900, where I would want him to be for the season. However, everybody gets hot, so if I look at the last 4 weeks, maybe he jumps up there. I doubt it, but maybe he jumps up there. There's a reason why he's $2,900 right now. Yeah, Chris Davis fell completely off the list. He's not even hitting his 750, 780 for the season. He's cold, cold, cold. Look at how quickly these guys drop off. Baltimore's not having a great year, but they are in a good spot. So these are the guys I want to pick from, because these are the guys currently doing the damage. I don't give a shit about the rest of them. You want to pick somebody like Adam Jones, fine, go for it. Don't be surprised when he gets you a 0 or a 3 and you lose your money. Okay? Wait for him to get hot. Don't try and think, well, maybe tonight's his night. It's clearly not. These are 4-week numbers where he's been sucking balls. Okay? I'm going to really put myself on a limb here, and I'm going to say don't play him. I won't play him. He won't even be on my list. Somebody will probably play him. He'll probably hit 2 bombs tonight because that's baseball, and I'll probably look like a fool. That's just how it goes. But the bottom line is stay with the guys that are producing. Give yourself the best chance you can. Another thing I will do is I'll cross-check it with BVP and see if they do maybe see the pitcher a little bit better than somebody else. This is just easy, fast, quick ways. Sort by OPS. Now I know, and when I'm looking at BVP, I'm going to see very, very small samples. This 1-for-1 means crap to me. Yeah, I'm good for Machado. Batting 1,000 against the guy. Who cares? That doesn't tell me crap. But 10 at-bats is starting to tell me something. Getting on base 30% of the time, so maybe sees the pitcher fairly well. I really like it when I start to see 15, 20 at-bats, and I start to see a guy that's maybe 6 or 7 for 20 and has a couple of bombs against the guy. That guy I like. I'm gonna want him running hot compared to the offense, like I just showed you with good OPS numbers over the last 4 weeks. but I'm also going to cross-check that with BVP. And if I see a guy who's currently running hot and he's got good BVP against a pitcher, I love the guy. Major green light. And he'll make my short list. When you find guys like this, write them down. You know, Machado maybe hits your radar. You know, who else did we see over this way? You know, Chu maybe is okay. Andres is maybe playable. You throw them on your list. And then when you start getting over 3, 4, 5 guys, you start picking from the best of the best. You want to make sure that every single lineup spot you have a batter in has potential to have a good night. And you've got some logic and some reason to back it up. Don't just throw a guy in there to complete a stack if he's not hitting the ball very well. You're not going to get lucky like that very often. You know, and if you do like I do, which is stick to smaller GPPs, you know, you don't need the crazy random crap to happen. Scooter Jeanette's 4 home runs. You don't need that to win 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 player GPP. You need it to win a 40,000 player GPP. Don't get me wrong, but you don't need it to win the 4 and 5,000 player GPPs. That's why you find me in them. All right, so Clayton Kershaw. I know we want to target some of these offenses, but let's do this a little bit different way. I know I said it in the beginning. We're going to do it some way. We're going to do it a different way. We're going to run down this list, and we're going to dig all the way down to the bottom. And we'll just build it top to bottom from catcher on. And I don't normally do this when I'm building, but I do when I do it this way. When I'm trying to fit into Kershaw, I'm going to run down here at Maldonado. Who do I know automatically is in a decent spot? Arizona at Cincinnati, Chris Herman, thanks. $2,100. Okay, got a little power. Sits in a good offense. That's the cheapest catcher I'm willing to accept today. Okay? And if you can tell, well, here, we'll plug him back in. Getting a little bit out of sorts, and I apologize for that. But look, I have to get under $2,800 just to be able to roster it. This is a shitty average to have to roster, and make up for. But $2,100 helps. Watch it jump. Bang, $2,800. Okay? Let's go to first base. We'd like to spend up on first base when we can, just like everybody else, but maybe we find a cheaper guy down in here, down in the bottom somewhere. John Jaso's not terrible. Joey Gallo, Texas, right? A lot of power this year. He's running a little cold right now, but for right now, if I had to run him, Luke Voigt's another one. If I had to run him, I might be all right with it. I don't know that I'd take Abreu against Kershaw unless I saw significant BVP, 15, 20 at-bats, and he's got him a couple of times for a home run. Then I'd be happy to jump on him. I wouldn't use him in my Kershaw lineup, but I'd maybe put him in another one somewhere. Second base. Scroll on down. Down, 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 down. Drive down to the bottom. In fact, maybe there's a league minimum guy at second base that we can find. Let's see. Keep looking, keep looking, keep looking, keep looking, keep looking. Sometimes there's Drew Robinson in Texas. All right. So 2,200 again. Now we're up to 3,000. Now we can start affording some players maybe. What we're going to do is we're going to do this at every position. And then we're going to drive down. Ah, crap. Stupid computer. Then we're going to drive down. And we'll upgrade a little bit later and build the rest of our lineup. But what we're doing is we're happy with these guys so far. Todd Frazier, going against Kershaw, never mind. TJ Rivera, all right, value play. If you really want to look, game log him. Let's see. Going up against, I don't even know who's starting for St. Louis. He didn't hit my pitching radar today, but let's plug him in. It's been okay since the All-Star break. And he's dirt cheap still. And he's under the 3,000 we were looking at. Now we go into the outfield, or shortstop, I guess. Outfield, we'll always find value in there. Peraza, yeah, maybe. Going against Robbie Ray, Tim Anderson, Pennington, Cavaria, Herman Barney, Stephen Drew, not a bad spot, got power. Yeah, I'd probably be alright with Stephen Drew tonight if he draws to start. Granted, lineups aren't released yet. This is just a basic build. This is just what we kind of start doing when we're looking for Kershaw slates. I do it with everybody, though. If I like a $7,000 pitcher, I do this a lot, too. Because I want to make sure that I'm not at the end of my roster build scrounging for any old $2,300 player that comes along. I want to make sure I've already got those guys locked in. Let's see. There are some $2,000 players. There should be. I'm looking for one in very specifically. Rua's got power if he draws the start. Wouldn't be terrible. We'll go ahead and slot him in a spot. Ducci went on a run a while ago. I'm still in the $2,000 range though, huh? So as I come cruising up, Sugar Shane Robinson, Daniel Robertson, you know, these are guys again that aren't phenomenal players, but find the hot ones, kind of keep clicking them in. Magnus Sierra, 2,200. Guy gets on base. Young, cheap, gets on base. Look, I got one slot left, $6,400 left over. Do you think you'd ever have $6,400 left over at this point? There's Profar if he draws a start. Geyer, Heredia, Franklin, Matuk, Sanders, Rayburn. You know, we're just getting up there a little bit. Marisnik. You know, if he draws the start, throw him in there. He's got some speed. He's at the bottom of the order, which I don't like. Sometimes he does pop up leadoff, and then I do get excited about him. But let's just say that's just a basic build right there. And I'm pretty happy if I have to use any of these guys. I'm pretty happy with them. I've got $4,000 to play with on a Kershaw roster. Yep. Don't tell me you can't fit Kershaw in there tonight. You can. Who's the first spot that we would upgrade? Maybe you want to organize these out. Look, we've already got a couple Texas guys in there. 3 Texas guys. Let's toss out Rivera and let's throw in Beltre and see what happens. This is where I'm just kind of goofing. I'm just playing. This is where when you build, you know, 5, 6, 7 different lineups, you know, you're trying to just kind of match it up. I'm just trying to throw the stack in there. Robinson, Gallo, Beltre, I'd be happy with. Rua, probably not so much. If I wanted to drop out Herman, I'd probably put in Chirinos. Get a little at the bottom of the lineup with Gallo. Get a little in the middle of the lineup with Robinson and Beltre. So that one might work. Needs Chirinos to draw the start tonight. He didn't play last night. He might play tonight. I don't know their rotations well enough to know. But what have I got? 4,800 for an outfielder yet? I know I like these 3, 4 guys right here. There's my Texas stack. Boom. Fully stacked for a single entry GPP. I can counter that with some Baltimore and game stack it. I can take out Stephen Drew and Jake Marisnik. Even though I like them, I can remember them and plug them back in. And I can see what I got left for what, 4 slots? Is that 3,000 per player? That's workable, guys. You know, if I want to jump down here and let's see. There's Coors if you want, if you like Valencia and he gets in there. Cozart hasn't been bad. Can't use Andrews. Already got 4 Texas players. Owings, there we go. Little power in Arizona. I already know from looking. Amarista wouldn't be bad either. But Owings has shown a little bit of pop this year. And I got, what, 3,250 for 2 outfield spots? Let's see, 3,250. Probably can't get into Coors tonight. Got to be okay with fading it. Now, you could if you went and intentionally targeted it. Don't get me wrong. I just probably went with this lineup. There's your boy Mancini. And let's see if that gets me up. What have I got? 3,600. It should get me up to Trumbo. Well, Pollock's not a bad spot. Not in a bad spot. What have I got? 3,600 to play with? I'm only targeting Trumbo because he takes care of Mancini too. If I wanted to put go with the Cincinnati, you know, or the Arizona guy and go Pollock with Owings, that's okay. But I mean, these are mixes and matches, and this is where it comes down to splitting hairs. But if I scan down here, I've got a full Texas stack. All 4 guys are, you know, have potential to hit the ball really well. 3 of them are hitting the ball really well right now. Only Gallo's a little bit cold. And then I drop down to, you know, Chris Owings at short, who has the potential to hit a ball out. I think he's got a multi-homer game this year. Mancini's hitting the ball fairly well. Magnus Sierra can put up, you know, 2, 3, 4 hits on the game and score some runs and knock a couple of guys in. He's not going to hit for a lot of power, but he's got wheels. He gets on base. He steals a couple bags. You know, you can put up a good quick 12 to 14, 16 points for $2,200 there. And Trumbo's got double dong power just like anybody. So what you've got is just a simple way to build a Kershaw lineup. You could do this again if you wanted to go with don't necessarily target your stacks first, but you can do this with other pitchers. You can drop down $1,000 or $2,000, use some other guys. You can start putting in some game theory and start realizing that the more you build lineups like this, oh my God, some of this stuff is just too easy. It's too obvious. So I guess a lot of people are probably going to do this. And then you can think of ways to go kind of the other way. What else has potential? Like if I built another lineup, I probably wouldn't use a Texas stack. I'd maybe flip the script and do a Baltimore stack. Or maybe I'd do an Arizona stack and grab Pollock and Peralta and Owings. And then I would run off and Herman back up here at catcher again. And then I would run off of that and maybe pick up, a couple of one-off bats from here or there. These are just all things you do. When you start building 10, 15, 20 lineups a day, with the, same pitcher in there, you start getting a real flow. You start figuring out who you're married to. And then you start thinking of ways you can get off of that too. You can start thinking that this is just the way this is going to go tonight, so everybody ought to be doing this. And then you can start thinking of ways that maybe you can get into some lower ownership spots. So anyway, if you like this type of stuff, give the DFS Army a chance. I mean, this lineup would change throughout the day as lineups are released and whatnot, so it doesn't really matter. But the bottom line is, if this is typically how I've learned to build lineups. If you like this type of stuff and you want some more detailed coaching and stuff like that, don't rely on videos, don't rely on articles. Jump into our Slack channels as a VIP in the DFS Army and start asking questions. You've got me, you've got Keith, you've got Al, you've got Mitch, you've got Burns, you've got a bunch of these guys and a bunch of regulars that are out there that I didn't even name that are willing to help and ask questions and feed off of each other. It's much faster than Twitter. It's much better as a form of social media to get together with a bunch of guys that think like you do, talk like you do, and have the time during the day to cut each other's research processes down, because we've all got day jobs and whatnot. So just give it a shot. You got a coupon code WIN, W-I-N, gives you a 7-day free trial. Jump in, see if you like it. Stick around for football. There's going to be a ton of people getting in for football that have been back over the past year or 2 years since we've been doing this, and the DFS Army just continues to grow. So follow the link in the description. If you like this kind of stuff, give me a thumbs up, give me a retweet on Twitter. Help me spread the word. As the Army grows, we will grow. We'll reinvest a lot of our resources back into products like this to help teach people even more, and we'll bootstrap everybody. We'll bring them all up together. Longer video, almost 30 minutes. Thanks for sticking through to the end. Hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully you thumb up it, and we will see you when we see you.